So we'll call the April 12th strategic planning session for the Jail and Juvenile Transition Center committee meeting to order. I'm going to deviate just a little bit from the agenda because there are a couple new faces at the table here representing Ken Crouch from the Health Department. Ken let me know that he wasn't able. He's going to send a couple people. Apparently it takes 2 people to replace him, I guess.
He's not for election, you only have to.
And I'll let them introduce themselves, but when we get into open or other discussion, they're going to talk a little bit about an idea for a program that we'd like to start looking at implementing. So,
I'm Faith Gruesbeck. I'm a public health educator and the coordinator of the Fetal and Mortality Review Program.
I'm sorry.
Can you talk into the microphone?
I'm Faith Gruesbeck. I'm a public health educator and I'm the coordinator for the Fetal Infant Mortality Review Program.
Thank you.
And I'm Gwen Williams, and I am with Public Health Muskegon County as well, and I am the Maternal Child Services Supervisor overseeing WIC, infant mortality, and hearing and vision programs.
and I think it just dawned on me that this might be your first official meeting, so go ahead and.
I'm Julia Rupp, and I'm the new Executive Director for CNH.
Anyone else on this? Okay, back to the agenda. Approval of minutes from last month's meeting, sir.
You might want the new ones to know who we are.
Just assume everybody knows you, Commissioner. I'm terrible.
I turned this on
Yeah.
so I can see it. I forget it all the time.
Yeah, for the benefit of you folks, Nancy Spitzner,
Nancy Hunter, District Court Administrator.
Dean Rossler, County Sheriff.
Philistine Wilkins, County Commissioner.
Ken Hahn, County Commissioner.
Scott Plummer, County Commissioner.
Jim Pierzynski, County Commissioner.
Paul Muskegon, Youth Services Director.
Keith Kaplan, Finance Director.
Lori.
Oh, Lori Bruder.
We'll just go around the room.
Administrative Assistant for Bonnie.
Eric Gardner from the Beacon.
Yeah.
The Beacon. I kind of like that.
I'm Brian Bench with Signature Associates.
Bonnie Hamilton, Muskegon County Administrator.
If you want to just, Terry, I mean, you're an interested observer, obviously.
Yeah, Terry Sabo, Muskegon County Road Commission, and yeah.
Micah Mosier, Muskegon Township President and Jail Employee.
My name's Toby. I live in Muskegon.
Eric Rodoff, Michigan Watchdogs.
Okay. Okay, now back to the agenda. Approval of minutes from last month's meetings. Everyone had?
Or
Okay, there's a motion and a support for that motion to approve last month's meetings. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The JJTCC Citizen Review Committee update. Ms. Hammersley.
Okay. I just wanted to give an update on the Citizens Review Committee for this Jail and Juvenile Transition Center Committee. We've received 24 applications. The County Board Chair at the full board meeting on Tuesday directed the commissioners to work with the board liaison to get the applications. There are 2 districts that do not have any applications, District 4 and District 6, but we have applications in all other districts, and I think it's the will of the board to have the commissioners choose from their applications and get the information to the county board chair, and for the next board meeting, who's ever available to be appointed will be appointed. And then the other issue that came up and thought that it was more appropriate that it be brought to this committee was the idea of advisory members of the committee, people who have experience or expertise, rather than them being on the Citizens Review Committee. And that was just up for discussion, and I wanted to remind you all about that. Commissioner Snyder was the one that brought that up. There may be value in some of the people who have applied to actually be advisory members of the committee because of their expertise, as opposed to being on the Citizens Review Committee. Does anybody have any questions or want to talk about it?
Just for my, I should know, but whose district is For District 6, it was
Commissioner Derazinski and
Four.
Commissioner Collins. Collins is 6.
So what's the plan then for those two districts? That
We will wait until people apply, and as long as no one applies, those districts will not be represented on the review committee. But we would like to get the review committee together as soon as possible so that they can participate with this committee going forward.
But you will proceed, Bonnie, with those that we have, is that correct?
Yeah, and if you haven't, if there's any commissioners here who haven't gotten the applications from Lisa, our board liaison has all those applications. You should get the applications for your district, and I think Commissioner Mahoney indicated however you want to proceed, telephone calls, interviews. You know, if you just have one, maybe you just want to make a phone call. But so there was a couple that just had, actually there was just 2. There was only 2 districts that had only 1 applicant.
Any other questions for the administrator?
My district has 1, but
Yeah.
I think there are 2 or 3 in the works. So I'm hoping by the next full board meeting to have the commissioner's recommendations, and then we can just move forward with that with the folks that we have.
And that's April 24th is the next full board.
I'm just curious to take on everybody about what Commissioner Snyder said about people with experience or having, different members other than just one. How's everybody feel about it?
Well, I've got a couple comments. I guess, sort of what kind of experience. I mean, the name that comes to mind, obviously, for me is Bob Carter,
That
the
was
sheriff
the one.
2 sheriffs ago. And I think that's kind of a no-brainer in terms of the expertise that he would bring. But are we, what field of expertise are we looking for? Construction, institutional management of some nature? I don't know. I have no problem with Bob Carter serving as in advisory capacity if you don't want to use him as your.
He's not in my area right now, so I don't have to pick for him right now.
If I could just, I guess what I would, just in my experience with citizen review committees, it is best to stick with the idea that it is a citizen review committee. And having advisory members that, such as a former sheriff, would certainly benefit the committee and wouldn't really have to take up a seat on the citizen part of it, because our hope is that we bring citizens in that will share this in the community and be also new to this, so that they ask the questions that everybody doesn't assume people know. So that's the take, that's kind of the idea behind the Citizen Review Committee. And advisory members usually are, like the experts or people that have information or have been involved.
I surely want to make sure, and that's why I'm a little hesitant, that we have some females on this board. Our jail population of females have grown in proportion pretty much steadily, plus somebody with some adolescent exposure. And I've asked a couple of people, neither had applied, because I just feel that gives the citizens a better representation.
I don't disagree. I mean, I've not seen any of the applications, so I don't know what the pool of candidates looks like for any certain commission district. And clearly, we want, Mr. Wishka to feel comfortable with the level of input that he's going to be looking for.
Well, I have 2 law enforcement that want to be on it, but then I have a mother here, so I mean, and it makes it easy in that aspect. But the other way, I look at 2 law enforcement officials.
But Mr. Wishka doesn't have an opportunity to appoint somebody.
So true.
But he has an opportunity to encourage someone to apply.
He's been twisting my arm.
Right. I mean, and that's what I would recommend, because
Well, speaking as a sitting sheriff, I would like to see Bob Carter in some capacity on this because of his historical knowledge and his, his breadth of experience with
I would just
all the
say,
issues we're dealing with.
I would just say somebody like Bob and some other law enforcement people would certainly be able to advise the Citizens Advisory Committee as to where things should go and what the history is and all of that, without being the reviewer as such. Certainly would want Bob Carter there and some others involved, but I don't necessarily, and I'm kind of with the administrator and some others, don't necessarily think they ought to be the review committee.
I think the advantage of separating it like that is we'll broaden the discussion significantly. If we have it too heavily weighted to those that have either law enforcement, courts, traditional backgrounds, we don't broaden the discussion any more than what we can around this very table. So I hope that we do recognize the importance of separating the two from one another and allow, we're getting input that suggests the citizens feel left out of the process, so if we don't do something to ensure that they're part of it, then we're going to have that conflict remain. Certainly people with expertise can help explain different things that I think the main committee would greatly benefit for, but I don't think the expert should drive it.
Yes, I have some concerns too about the number of women that we may get, and I'm in a sort of predicament with some experience in serving in county government, and then a female, and I trying to determine how should it go. You got one that's bringing you some experience of having been on jail committees and around like that. So if we could use them in an advisory capacity, and then let our other representative be our representative, we may balance it out as far as gender and that is concerned.
I'm sorry, peripheral vision, go ahead.
When looking at who's going to be on this, I think if this is a committee that's going to follow this through to the end, we also have to look at people that can sell this to the community and what are they bringing as far as marketing and other features and connections and advertising. So we need to look at that aspect too when building this.
Yes, sir. Mr. Schneider.
I apologize for being late, first of all. Secondly, I happen to share that I think we need to have an advisory committee that is representative of the community and representative of the citizens. I had an application from Sheriff Carter. I happen to think we need to have a technical advisory committee. That's what this committee is, and I guess I would think that perhaps we can make a citizens advisory committee and a technical advisory committee. I'd like to have Bob Carter as a technical advisor. I also have an application from a former prosecutor. I also have an application from someone who's just from the community. And I would like to name that person who is just from the community because he will be engaged for the long term, and he will be one who would be willing to go out and say that there has been sufficient community input in this, and this is a plan that makes some sense. So I'd really try to break the committee down into two parts. I don't mean to complicate things at all, but I think Sheriff Carter is a valuable asset, but I think we need some of the representation from the people that are sitting in the back as well. And it's those types of people that I think we really need.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with pretty much all the comments. I hate to see a technical advisory committee of 11 people. If we could narrow it, if we could come up with a reasonable number of technical advisors, so to speak, because I have the same concern about creating another layer of communication barrier. So.
Well, Mr. Chair, what I might recommend is we know of one this committee knows of one individual that they'd like to be on the technical advisory committee. And as Commissioner Snyder indicated, this really is the technical, because you all do have the expertise. And if you wanted to, if someone wanted to move to add Mr. Carter as a member of this committee, that we could do that. And as things change and as things evolve towards this, more people may come forward on that. But I support what Commissioner Snyder said. We really have to have a representation of citizens as well.
I'll make the motion to add Sheriff Bob Carter to this committee.
Second.
There's a motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. You want me to contact him?
We will, the board liaison will contact him and let him know, and then you all can go forward with your other application.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
We have a former commissioner who would like to serve on this committee, Louis McMurray, and I was wondering if we could include him in that capacity for his service.
In an advisory capacity?
Yes, and then we might.
I would suggest you put that in a form of motion and
So
we'll see where that goes. Okay, so there's a motion to have former Commissioner McMurray serve on this committee with us support. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. You gonna reach out to him too then?
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
And we'll be reaching out to all the applicants regardless of.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else on the citizen committee? RFQ update, Heath Kaplan, please.
Thank you. I guess if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'll give an update from here. I'm hoping that, okay, that's all good. Because I'll show you kind of what we've done. We have posted the RFQ, of course, as you can see here on the Mitten site. And if you're just curious to how many people have downloaded the document, see if it, right now we got 647 companies that have showed an interest. But that's not to mean we're going to get 647 proposals in any way. But it just shows you kind of how, and of course this is all of them. So it just kind of gives you an idea of, again, the interest in the program. Everything is due, as you can see from the deadline here, 4/20. We had the mandatory pre-bid meeting last week. It was very well attended. And if you're curious, the sign-in sheet for that mandatory pre-bid meeting is located on the SharePoint site. But they were instructed to, what format to submit everything through, what questions, if they had questions, how to funnel those questions, etc. So I think we're off on a pretty good note, and we're expecting those proposals back by the 20th. Any questions about the process itself or any concerns?
Anyone?
That's all I had, sir.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Agenda item 4, potential property presentation, Signature Associate.
Does he need to use the?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Unless you want to use a clicker. You want to use a clicker?
No.
No.
We probably won't go through every page, so.
Okay, you just tell me what page.
Okay.
I can do it.
All right. Is everybody all set with a copy, viewing copy, or on the screen? Everybody all set? Okay. I think Heath sent this out a couple days ago, so a lot of you probably have already seen it. We did I guess it'd be a preliminary search of available buildings and land for potential sites for the jail. If you start with the existing buildings, Keith, you want to click to the, there you go. As you can see, not an abundance of existing buildings out there. Our target was, based on a meeting we had with Heath and Bob, 180,000 square feet per building. My search parameters were 100,000 square feet, really on up, for Muskegon County. As you can see, we identified 5 buildings, most of which are industrial in nature. I will add one more building as I go through it, because I just got information back on that today, so I will add that and probably get that back to you too, so you have that as well. The first building there, I should say, no, I did not limit this search based on distance to the county building for the buildings. For the land I did, but not for the buildings. The first building is 1041 Keating. That is the former American Coil or Michigan Spring property. Single level industrial building, 8.31 acres, pretty straightforward. The building is vacant right now. There are some month-to-month tenants in there, but really no users at this point. 1450 East Laketon is the former Roundy's building. That most of you are familiar with. Some of you have been through it. It's a former distribution slash warehouse for Roundy's. A little bit larger than the square footage requirement, but good location right there at Laketon and 31. Feel free to jump in with any questions as I go on to 2051 Harvey is also a former manufacturing plant, about 140,000 square feet. It was a former Dana SPX plant. 1700 Oak is the Mercy General Hospital campus in real estate. I think Commissioner Schneider in particular wanted us to chat with those folks. We actually met with the hospital last week, and they are slowly moving their departments out of that campus, as has been disclosed in the papers and so on. They've got a couple of departments left in there, and they're projecting out of there fall of 2013. So it really won't be available till then, thereabouts. They said give us 60 to 90 days either way, but that's what they're looking at. Square footage on the existing buildings, there is a little bit of a moving target because it's multi-level. I do have detailed drawings that aren't in here of the facility, but according to the hospital, it's a little over 200,000 square feet. Keep in mind that the administrative part of it, if you will, is I think 4 floors, so it's not all one level there. So 2901 Estes, that's a former manufacturing plant as well. Kadon actually was in there last. 152,000 square feet on almost 9 acres. We've had that list. That's been on the market for lease. It has not been on the market for sale. That's an out-of-state owner, so a little bit of a moving target what he's going to do there. He did say he would sell it, but we don't have a sale price or anything like that. And one property I do want to add, I didn't have it on the list simply because I couldn't get information from the representative, is the Brunswick property, which I thought really should be on the list because it's in pretty close proximity of the county building. And I did confirm that that it is available, but it's not technically on the market right now. That consists of, and I will get this to Heath, it's the part of the Brunswick property north of Laketon, near Seaway, if you know where that is. There's about 230,000 square feet of building there. Multiple buildings, several of which are older stock buildings that probably would go away. I don't know if any of them would be of use for, reuse, I should say, because they are older buildings, most of them. List price on that was $1 million. 15 acres, so there is plenty of land there. I think that's really about it, and I will get that information to you so you have it as well. That's it for buildings. There is some backup material for each property in the packet. Feel free to look through that and give me a shout with any questions. Any quick questions on the buildings at all? Okay. If you leaf over to the vacant land section, there's a lot of vacant land out there. Our parameters for this, based on our discussions, we were targeting 7 acres, thereabouts, just based on, what we thought we might need based on the square footage of the building and so on. We tried to stay within 5 miles of the county building. There's a list of 11 here, some of which probably are fairly easily ruled out, based on location, and there probably are a couple that don't have municipal utilities, some that are out East Apple area. Just a few that I wanted to highlight, I guess. 414 West Broadway, number 5 on the sheet there. That is the former Lift Tech property. That building is gone. That site is cleaned, cleared, flat. And that is the one that I think I relayed to Heath that an individual bought for, I think, $10 from the company that had purchased the plant and demolished it. He did put that back on the market. I talked to his broker, and he's going to list that for $150,000. So that's a little over 20 acres. Good sized piece of property there. Another one I guess I wanted to highlight, and feel free to ask questions about any of these, but number 9, 61 Ottawa Street. I'm not real familiar with that piece of property. My partner Jim actually generated the land listings here. He's out of town, but I believe that is right at the end of Ottawa Street, and I think it was a former wastewater site, if I'm not mistaken. Is anybody familiar with that offhand?
Yeah, it's Richards Park.
Okay. That one caught my eye because it was fairly close, and it does have enough property. I think it was 7 acres, if I'm not mistaken.
It's not Richard Park because it's a parcel.
Well, it's the
to east.
parcel
It's
on the opposite
adjacent
side.
to
Where the old car lot is and.
Yeah, just north of that, I believe. Yeah, exactly. I think that was, 7.5 acres. So I tossed that in there. Of course, we have some of the county-owned stuff, the Muskegon County Business Park North, which we're familiar with. And the Seaway Industrial Park, I thought I should include that as well. That's just at Seaway and Hackley, if I'm not mistaken, between Hackley and
Park Street, basically.
Park, yeah. There are several lots in there available. That actually is part of the Muskegon 25 program as well, for what it's worth. But there are several parcels in there available. They're not, it's not a nice, neat rectangular or square site, but I think there could be enough land assembled there if that was of interest as well. So, is there anything else? Any questions on the land? Like I said, I didn't go through each one of them. Some of them probably could be fairly easily removed from the list, but we kept it pretty general. And this, of course, is pretty fluid. Listings come and go. So it might change over time. Buildings as well. Any questions?
Go ahead, sir.
Still want to know about next door in the street and the property next to us.
Yeah, we talked about that, and that we kind of, I guess I look at that as being kind of a separate, separate objective or goal or what have you. Obviously it would take some assemblage, and we're, obviously more than willing to do that, but I guess what I thought it might be a little bit preliminary to do that, but if that's, the target, we can certainly, do that research.
And I can just add, we met with Signature Associates and we asked them to do, they've done what we asked them to do. We asked them to go out and just scan the area, find properties, and one of our goals, I think, as the committee or as the county, would be that by the time we had the consultant on board to start doing the work, we would have a number of properties, and we would the one option that's always there will be our current facility and expanding that. I mean, that was, I always saw that as part, and when we talked to Signature Associates, we said, we'll have 3 categories for the consultant. One will be county-owned property, and that would fall under county-owned. 2 would be reuse of another facility, and the third one would be land. And then however many sites you want under those categories, we'd have them do sites, and then we can do comparables. You know, if we do it with a reuse or we do it with vacant property, the consultant should be able to give us numbers and ideas and conceptual plans for that. So that was the idea here. And we didn't intend today for any, you know, that you would all make any decisions or anything, but just start the conversation. There are some packets here for those that don't have this online, and we'll share that with everyone, and we'll just continue to start thinking about the sites. And if, like Commissioner Wilkins brought up the Lift Tech site, if there are other sites that you all know about and want Signature to go look at, or the hospital as we did, we'll look at those, and we'll continue to do that throughout. So that was the intent of this today, and they did do some extensive work. I mean, to look at, you know, we talked about, you know, the zoning issue. There'll be a lot of criteria that we're going to have to take into consideration once we get the sites, the zoning, the size, the utilities, everything like that.
My point was, I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that this gets
Right.
thrown into the
Right.
mix there someplace,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. And I
to me,
think
it's a
that-
logical place.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think it's implied by the very fact that we're gonna study, can the existing jail be rehabbed to a point of, you know, current and future needs, and if by doing that, is that gonna require further land acquisition to accomplish that, or, you know, knock the entire thing down and start fresh at that particular site with land acquisition? So that's not gonna be overlooked, I'm quite confident. Any other comments or questions for Brian? Okay. Agenda item number 5, other discussion, and I'm going to kind of put Faith and Gwen on the spot a little bit to talk about a program that has been more or less researched by the health department, or go ahead.
Sure. I have a proposal that I can pass out copies of. Gwen and I have both received training through Human Impact Partners in Detroit to conduct health impact assessments. And the role of public health is to look at any kind of policy change or initiatives such as this one, and look at thoroughly how the proposal could impact the health of the community, and report those findings back to the committee in order to see if there's any changes that can be made, or you know, mitigating actions that can lessen the negative health impacts. So that's what we are asking, is that there's no need for us to go through the work unless the committee is willing to take our recommendations and our reportings and findings into consideration. So that's why we came here today, was to propose this, because we have data already from infant mortality showing that there is a correlation between incarceration and poor birth outcomes, that we have already you know, an interest in looking at this, and my position can support that. So we already have that data, but there are many other aspects. So we would put together a collaborative that has expertise from many different areas: mental health, substance abuse, community members, the faith community, and look at all of the potential impacts. We're at a unique time right now because a site hasn't been chosen, so that we could inform some of those decisions while the process of planning is taking place.
I think it's important to note too that this isn't something that we kind of came up with on our own. It's something that's been done worldwide. California, for example, has a health in all policy where just like an environmental impact assessment needing to be done on new projects and policies, a health impact also is done on many new projects and policies. So this is an opportunity for us to kind of introduce that here and get our feet wet in a project, in a proposal that we feel would have a lot of impact in our community, even on infant mortality.
On the back are some examples, and a lot of the health impact assessments that have been done in the United States have been on transportation and housing. But there's a current project right now in Wisconsin that's looking at a proposal for getting money from the state to look at alternatives to incarceration, and that's a large statewide HIA that's being conducted right now. So there might be some overlap between these two projects.
Does this happen to be something that you could do from Public Health Muskegon?
Yeah, we're not asking. Yeah, we're not asking for any kind of resources to be able to continue to do it.
Taking it a step further from that, I think it's something that we really need to do. I happen to think that, just based upon what we've historically had to deal with in the jail, that it would make a lot of sense to have a health impact study like this, presuming that it comes out the way we want it.
That I cannot guarantee.
But I understand the point is to do the impact and to make the corrections if there are any that are necessary. But I think if we're going to take this to the public, it's something that we need to do.
And there would be, an opportunity for people in the public to be involved in this process as well.
I guess that's my question, Dave. Can you kind of explain what the algorithm, what the process? I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of data gathering and.
So the major steps are listed here on the handout. So first we see, like, this is part of the screening process. What we're doing right now is to see, is there support from the decision-making people to look at what we find. And then we try to develop pathways. So we get all of our experts together in our collaborative, and we develop pathways. So we look at how the plan would possibly impact things that would then in turn impact public health or health status. So those are, we will develop those pathways, and then we'll do research, and we'll see, what research has been done on these issues, and what do we know, so we're not making things up. And then we'll develop a report based on what we find. So we'll look at the pathways, we'll find research that correlates with those pathways, and then we'll develop a report based on that.
What's the timeline to get to the recommendation report?
Health impact assessments can be done very quickly. There can be like a mini health impact assessment, but I think because this project is long term, I mean, being involved as the process moves along would be beneficial. So I think that it would go on as long as, until final decisions are made.
Well, at what point, how long would it take if we said, yeah, go ahead and do this, this is a great idea, but we want to use it in conjunction with building this jail and juvenile center and all that. So at what point, how long would it take to get a recommendation from you saying these are pieces that you should put into the thought process?
Yeah, I think it would be better for you to say what information you need from us in a certain time frame, and for us to get it to you in that time frame of it, rather than the other way around, because we can do it in whatever way is needed. So we could do it, more thoroughly if we had more time, or put things together more quickly if we had to. That doesn't answer your question.
Well, I guess if I can jump in, if we're going to use this as part of our decision-making matrix as far as our location and design and eventually programming opportunities, it would seem that this kind of needs to be done first at some point before we go to break ground or whatever we end up doing. So, so there is kind of a different timeline, even though you're more or less starting at the ground level as we are. Kind of a shortened timeline, I think, for this to help us get the information to make the decision.
Well, sure. And the second step there, as Faith mentioned, is scoping, really determining how broad you want those recommendations to be. I mean, we can look at a scope of decision-making that's basically, where you want it to be and what are the impacts of where you put it in this location versus this location. Or we can have a wider scope as the decision-making process goes along and you're looking at the actual design of the facility, that also has health impacts. So there are decisions that we can inform all the way along the process. So I think we should consider this process to go hand in glove with the planning for the rest of it.
It's more of a partnering process where public health is involved with the construction, siting, construction, the entire process, and making that connection throughout the process, much like sustainability.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering two things. One, what resources would be drawn on to produce this? And secondly, myself anyways, I always don't know what I need. I know what I want, but I have to ask my wife what I need. And is there something that could be produced? Is this what we recommend that we do along the timeline? So I guess I could see some on paper.
Kind of under reporting, it looks like.
So you'd like to see a timeline that's kind of more built into your own timeline or something like that?
And what you're gonna do when, and where the resources are coming from. I mean, the health department is already stretched to the max.
That's a part of what I'm paid to do, is to prevent infant mortality. So in 2009, we looked at all of the data that we had collected, and criminal justice issues came to the top as one of the 5 issues. So I'm working on the other 4, and this is one that I haven't had much opportunity to look at. So this is my job, and so I would be doing this as a part of my job.
And I'm understanding, did I hear you right, that there may be some grants or dollars available?
Well, we'd like to get support from Human Impact Partners, and they're an Oakland, California-based company that provided the training that Gwen and I attended in Detroit, and they have offered for less than $6,000 to give us some intensive technical assistance. So it would be up to us to try to find funding to get that, but even if that isn't possible, they have offered to provide support and answer questions as we move along.
One of the things I can do for the committee is I can meet with Faith and Gwen, and we can, on that model Gantt chart that I put together, we can plug them into the Gantt chart so you can see what this means and what's being done at the times that we're doing what we're doing. And so we can do that before the next meeting so that we can share that with you. You can get a better idea of what.
I'll add that I have had the opportunity to be part of the FEMA fetal infant mortality review process on a number of occasions, although my schedule has shifted somewhat, so I've made the last few. But I can tell you from personal knowledge that Faith and whoever else works on it puts together a very detailed report for that committee and breaks things down pretty concise and understandable, layman's terms, so to speak. And so I don't have any doubt that we're going to kind of see the same process with this if we go forward with this. And just based on some of the stuff I came to understand from the FEMA process, I support this 100% in terms of my position as sheriff and what we end up dealing with. So.
Sheriff, I was also thinking about the impact that it would have on the people that are taking their medicine or not taking their medicine. This would surely cut down on the number of beds that you have, and I think a study like this, perhaps you could give from some history of what the patterns are of those taking medicine and staying with it, so I think this could be.
Yeah, I think it's going to show some interesting data that is going to cause us to look at some things a little differently. My other question is there something similar in the arena of mental health, or is it all part of this?
I think we would participate in this process, right? Looking at health and in a generic way, behavioral health as well as.
Absolutely. And for the people who are incarcerated, but also those people who are affected. I mean, I think that it affects everybody, so looking at it in a much larger way.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept their proposal to conduct a health impact analysis, if that's the proper term.
Assessment.
Assessment.
I will second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the table to push forward with the health impact assessment process. Discussion.
I just want to make sure this is both physical and mental.
Any other comments or discussion before we go to vote? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you, ladies. We are under other discussion. Is there other discussion from the committee? Okay. You look like you're deep in thought there, Commissioner.
No.
Okay. And that takes us then to agenda item 6, public comment. Discussion from the public. Is there anyone that wishes to be heard from the public?
Hi, I think I had a question about, so today in the discussion it was mentioned that doing a study on the existing jail and rehabbing that would be part of the process. And I'm wondering when that's going to be part of the process, or how that works, or it's just that I haven't heard other detailed discussion of that in any of these meetings so far.
Okay, I can answer that, but just for the record, can you state your name?
Oh, sure, Nell Schaefer.
Yeah, the part of the RFQ that is going out is for the consultants as a part of their package to look at the existing facility, what we have.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be rehabbed to the point of modernization in terms of technology and getting a more efficient flow of operations, and what's our staffing concerns and how those could be addressed, and can we add on if that's the route we go to the existing structure, or is that structurally not possible? And if we wanted to stay at the same site, which I think a lot of us realize is a huge plus, if we can keep it close to where all the activity is as far as the courthouse, what would it take to keep it at the same site? Do we have to acquire more land and build out? Do we have to knock that structure down and start fresh? So that's all part of what this, whatever consulting group we end up going to is going to have to present back to us.
Great. Okay, and then the consulting, that is something that Keith mentioned, the preliminary bid session, and that was the other day. Is that for the?
Yes, that's for
right.
the group
Okay.
that will be looking at all this
exactly.
and making a recommendation to this committee, and this committee will make a recommendation to the county board.
Okay, great. And the other thing is there's only one mention from Signature Associates about the prices, and that was the $1 million for the Brunswick. And I assume that the prices would also be a part of this. More detail about the prices of everything would be a part of
That's going to be a big part of the discussion.
Right, definitely. And then I'm also wondering if that material can also be made available for the public and for people attending these meetings as well. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Anyone else? Schedule for next meeting.
I don't know if I put it on the SharePoint or not. Here with you.
It's good.
Paul, we got it with us here. Look here, April 26th is our next meeting date.
April 26th, 1:30, same place. Everybody comfortable with that? Okay.
You send it up to them.
Okay, there's no other discussion on the next meeting date. We're in a position for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and support, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thanks for your time.